All right. All right. It's sometime in mid-May.
It's not over.
We're in the
gotta get in here.
outdoor pavilion of the Teeter Abode. And today, we're going to be, that was really far away.
No,
Can y'all
we're
hear
good,
us?
man. Yeah, of course they can.
Okay,
Let's go.
all right. So what we're doing today is we have assembled the greatest teams in NBA history. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it's the top 5 best players of all time, in our opinion. It's not. You're going to probably see some people in here that you wouldn't consider even top 10 maybe. But as a team, as a collective, that's what we're going for. So we get 5 players, each position, and then 2 off the bench. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to list each position one by one, and then we'll argue our points as we get closer. All right. John, would you like to start us off with your center?
Center. People can go with Bill Russell. You can go with Wilt. You can do a lot of different things. I'm going with the most dominating force the NBA has ever seen at the center position, and that is Shaquille O'Neal.
All right, let me add to that. I picked Shaq too. So, Teeter, you got anything?
At the top of his game,
Yes.
he was the most dominating center the NBA has ever seen.
I think Wilt is the only thing close.
Yeah,
Um,
but Shaq was 7'1", 300 pounds, an all man, and he would push you around.
And it's like Phil Jackson said, if he had applied himself the way Kobe and Michael and
Yes.
those guys had, and taken care of himself better, and really pushed himself to be what he could be, Phil was like he should have been MVP 10 years in a row.
He should have been.
And he would have been. I mean, the dude was breaking
It was-
backboards in his rookie year.
It
I
was
mean, he's just amazing.
absolute dominance below. There's nothing you can do about
Because
it.
when you're an athletic 325,
You
you
can't
know
do anything
that's
with that.
tough to do. Because he ended up being like 340 in some of those Laker years.
Yeah.
You know, he not let himself go. I mean, he has a lot of mass to carry, but still.
But if you go back and look at the 94-95 year,
Yeah.
whenever him and
Yeah.
Penny were running
Yeah.
and
Right.
Jordan wasn't there,
Unbelievable.
you couldn't do anything with it. I mean,
Yeah.
you honestly were trying, and it didn't matter.
Yeah,
He-
people
he
think
would
of the
push
Laker
you
years,
around.
but you go back to those Orlando years, and it's insane what he could do. So yeah, I agree. Shaq is my 5 because
don't forget, man. Look at this.
I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, how are you gonna?
You can't do
You know,
anything with
the
it.
only, in my opinion, the only person in his career that ever gave him a run for his money was Mutombo in the years where he played with Philly. He was the only one, and Yao a couple times, but for the most part, Mutombo was the only matchup that ever gave him trouble, just because he was such a defensive stopper, and you know he was a good blocker and all. But he was the only Yao and Mutombo were the only people that Shaq ever really had trouble with. Everybody else he just rolled over. What was Alonzo Mourning gonna do to Shaq?
Well, it wasn't Alonzo. It was Hakeem. You got to think.
I know, but I'm saying-
Olajuwon was an absolute monster.
But he's 6'10".
Yeah, that's true.
He's 7 foot. I'm sorry, but he's a thin.
But he was a
7
horrible
foot.
dribbler.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the worst dribblers I've ever seen in my life. It's-
All right, Teeter, who's your center?
Bill Russell.
Bill. God, what an overrated piece of crap.
Or perhaps the greatest defensive.
Defensive,
center of all
yeah.
time
So you're
for
going with the
Boston
defensive.
Celtics. Yeah.
But here's the thing:
If you're building a team, you got to have somebody to play
okay,
defense.
that's fine. But if I'm 6'10" in 1967, I'm going to average 22 rebounds
I'm
too.
just telling you, Bill Russell.
I don't think his game
is
translates.
The greatest center of all time. If we're building a team, because you got to have some defensive anchor in the middle. He took the Celtics to how many championships?
But Wilt was his
10,
only
11?
obstacle.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just telling you. he's the
11
greatest.
out of 10 out of 11.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right? Or 11 out of 12?
It was, I think it was
That's a
11 out
lot.
of 12.
That's my pick.
It's 11 out of 12.
That's my
Yeah.
pick.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So 3 good centers for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't think
Yeah.
that one translates as well. I think if he played in 97,
Yeah.
we don't know who Bill Russell
Yeah,
is.
but if you look at the 11 championships, I mean, they speak for themselves.
Yeah, but
Now,
look
don't
at the
get me wrong.
competition.
I get it.
I think the playoffs were shorter. There weren't as many teams. There weren't nearly as many 6'10" dudes. You know, until Wilt came along, nobody was taller than him.
You have to
really.
look at the coach as well. I mean,
No, I get it.
they
I
had
get
great
it.
teams.
But I mean, I put Havlicek and Kuzi just as important. Heinsohn, all those guys were
Yeah.
just as important as Bill Russell.
Tommy Heinsohn is completely underrated.
He is, and he smoked.
He did.
I love the fact
He'd be baking out and be like,
he's
all right, let's
sitting there
go.
smoking at halftime.
You got
know?
layup drills? All right, let's do it, man. Whatever.
Let me snub this out and get back. Where's my jersey? All right, who you got at power forward? This is where it gets interesting, Teeter.
So power forward, I can do a couple of different things.
John always likes telling us what he could have done.
He does.
No, it's not that. I mean, I'm not. I did not go position for position. I didn't.
You don't have to.
I could line up 2 different guys there. My guy who is small forward, I'd love to stick him there and let him stay there. So I'm gonna go with, I'll go with Magic at power forward. And the reason is because he was 6'9". He's the only guy who ever played all 5 positions in an NBA
I'd say
final
Dennis
game.
Rodman. Oh, in the finals.
In,
Okay.
in the NBA finals, he's the only guy who ever played all 5 positions at one time, and won doing that. That's unheard of. But when you're 6'9" and you have that kind of skill, especially ball handling skills, it's tough to match. So I'll put him at the 4 if that's what you're asking me to do,
All right.
because that's
Well, you can. It's a modular team. You can put them where you
yeah.
want.
I mean, I can move him, but
depending on
at the 4,
matchups.
I'll go Magic to
Right.
run up the game.
I'm going with Akeem. And I kind of went with the logic of Robinson and Duncan, when they played those Twin Towers. And to me, Hakeem, I would love to play Hakeem and McHale together because they had such the same, dips and dive moves. I mean, they were just phenomenal on the block. But you got Shaq anchoring your defense, and then you've got the guy who statistically is one of the best players in like 11 categories, more so than any other players ever played. Like him and KG have probably got more numbers and stats in every category than anybody that's ever played the game. So I've got a guy I now got a 7'1" and a 7-foot that are interchangeable depending on matchups, but also with the blocks. I mean, that dude averaged 4.6 blocks one season. I mean,
That's insane.
he's what, top 3, top 4, 5, something like that all time, and he didn't even play that long, and so relatively. And so I got 2 centers basically, but he's deft enough and quick enough. It's such good footwork that he could easily be a power forward. But he had to play center and for the Rockets because he was the biggest dude.
But imagine if Sampson had been able to.
Yeah, sure. That would have been the same thing.
Because I've told anybody, and I'll say this for the rest of my life, Ralph Sampson was, without a doubt, at that size, one of the best top 5 college basketball players I've ever seen.
And
his mobility was stupid to be 7
well,
feet.
he's up there with Leitner and
It was
Alcindor
insane.
and Walton and all those guys in college lore. But
So
the only
good.
thing with him is, you ever see him in a Virginia game? He looks so uncomfortable in the bleachers.
Yeah,
He's
oh yeah, he does.
7'4".
He does. His face looks
Yeah.
completely skinned
He's
out.
like
It's
this.
like, man, are
his
you
knees
okay?
are like way up. This is a great game,
But one of the greatest highlights you'll ever see is the 1982, I think it was ACC. It might have been the 83. When he shot the free throw, it came back to him. He hit a drop step spin and went up and laid the ball in to win that game. And I'm thinking, no guy who is 7'4" should have that kind of agility.
Except
There's
Sean Bradley.
no way. It was
7'6".
insane.
Sean Bradley.
Sean Bradley.
Yeah, Sean
Coming-
Bradley.
Speaking of Sean Bradley.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We're gonna ask you to leave your own house.
Yeah, you got to go, man.
All right, what do you got? Power
All right,
forward.
I took a center and kind of moved him to power forward. Tim Duncan.
It's not a bad pick.
Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
that's
there's
good.
nothing you can say
Tim
bad.
Duncan's on my starting 5. Right there. Bill Russell and then Tim Duncan.
And here's the thing with him too, right? Like, so you're building a team. So what does he bring to the locker room? Ain't got no problems. Ain't gonna be pulling
He
guns in
ain't
the strip
pulling
clubs.
guns in the
Like, I
strip
mean,
clubs.
he's gonna be a great mentor for.
He probably wasn't even in the street.
Yeah, no, I don't see
He was
Tim.
probably. Well,
Yeah, he
we won't
probably
talk
never
about
went. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, you're building a team. Everybody
Yeah.
gets along. That kind of. There's no ego.
Tim
that kind
Duncan.
of thing. Tim Duncan, very good. What's your small forward?
Charles Barkley.
At small forward, I like it. He
The
is
guy at
6'6".
6'5" on a good day was, MVP of the league, and that was when Jordan was still playing. You did not outwork him below in the paint. You didn't. He was undersized. He always over-talented what he was doing. That's the guy that I would take no matter.
There were times where Jordan was the only other person better
Yes.
than him in the league.
And it pissed Jordan off whenever Barkley won the MVP, especially the year
Yeah.
they played in the finals, and he's thinking, okay, so you gave this guy the MVP? Okay, watch this.
Yep.
But Barkley still to this day, and not to mention my guys that I put together on this team are all cold-blooded killers. I don't have anybody that's soft mentally. You've got to be able to play. Barkley was a great shit talker. Let's do it, But at 6'4", 6'5", to be the guy that he was,
Yeah, I've heard 6'4", I've heard 6'6". Nobody really knows how
No,
tall he was, but he did what he
he
could
was
do.
undersized for what he did, but he gave every single bit of it every time he was on the court. That's my guy 3.
All right, mine is KG, and I put together size. So now I've got 3 7-footers, and aside from Shaq, all my players are modular. They can go and guard other positions. They can do other stuff. He's a stretch 4. KG can hit threes if he needs to, if he's open. But he also, just like Olajuwon, can do a little bit of everything, and can take over, give you 25 points and 13 rebounds, just like Olajuwon. Or he can sit back, just block and rebound. And I mean, he's even a 7-foot point forward if you really needed him to. I mean, he can handle the ball,
Yeah, he
especially the guys that would be guarding him. I mean, he can do it well enough there. He he can't go up against a point guard per se, but a small forward he can dribble the
I'm
ball.
about to say, I think KG's kind of out of his position at small forward, which is why.
See, I don't. I think he's a big small forward.
He could
he's
be
so
because,
thin.
but
He's
yeah,
220.
well, and he could step out and do things from the outside the lot, and that's where we're not. I didn't want to isolate everything to a position. You're doing a 5-man team.
But
get
if
out
I
of the
need
court and
to,
play.
if Elijah gets in foul trouble, I move him to the 4,
He shifts
and
to the
I've still
4,
got
easy.
Shaq. You know what I mean? Or if Shaq gets Hack-a-Shack, or and he get or not Hack-a-Shack, but if he gets fouled and in foul trouble, I move Elijah and now he's at his natural 4. So it all works out together. What do you got?
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird. Didn't see that coming.
Larry Bird.
Is there anything new you want to say about Larry Bird that hadn't been said before?
No, everything that you need to know about Larry Bird, you already know about Larry Bird.
Fair enough.
Fair
enough. All right, what do you got? I'm going to go with Jordan as your next.
Shooting guard?
Yes.
Absolutely. Greatest player of all time. There's no question about it. I hear people talk about LeBron and all this. Jordan made under 600 three-pointers in his entire career. LeBron has made 2,300.
We don't even have to make. I think we all agree
No.
that Jordan is better than LeBron.
If you look at the grand scheme of it from
Yes.
where he went, that there is the part of it is the sensationalism. LeBron is what's new. He's still fresh. People want to talk. No, well, I'm saying,
He is for his age.
but Jordan hasn't played in
He's
30
been in
years.
since 03.
Jordan hasn't played in
Jordan would
25
work
years.
him over today.
He would. But that's if you look at ESPN, all they want to talk about, the Lakers could lose, and that's the first thing. The Lakers lose, but LeBron scores 35.
I think.
great.
I think.
Who cares?
I think
they
the
lost.
only edge that LeBron has over him, other than size and maybe some athleticism. I mean, from a pure athletic standpoint,
There's no edge.
LeBron may be a slightly better athlete. Like he could play football, he could play volleyball, whatever. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not talking about how high
Michael
you can
Jordan
jump.
played
I'm not saying
baseball.
I get.
and basketball.
wasn't that great,
He
you know?
wasn't that
He
bad.
batted 200
But
in the
my
minors.
point
Yeah.
is this,
But
okay?
he hit baseball.
I'm
It's the
saying
hardest thing to
I
do in
think I
sports.
would give LeBron a slight edge in just athleticism, but not by much. But the one thing I would say that he did do better from the beginning, or at least very early on in his career, is taking care of his body. He wasn't out gambling till 4 in the morning and smoking cigars and playing golf all 47 holes a day. But LeBron is LeBron. That's the Brazilian steakhouse. He's basically like, all right, today's plyometric day. I work on my core, and then I eat this, and like everything.
All
is
that
healthy.
is true. If you look at LeBron, he
But they
is a
didn't have that back
physical
then.
specimen.
And his body has changed over time. You look at him now, and he's like 1% body fat.
Yeah,
because he has to be.
The
'cause
guy's
he's 47 years
6'9",
old.
265. He's built like a defensive end in the NFL, and that's special. Jordan was 6'6", 195 when he came into the league.
Yeah, and got up to 210.
He bulked up because of the Detroit
Yeah,
Pistons and
yeah.
said, "I'm not going to be pushed around anymore."
But it wasn't
one-
the same type of working out. Like he wasn't shredded and cut. He didn't look like Corey
Yeah.
Maggette with his shirt off.
Yeah.
But he was still strong.
The thing about LeBron that has always been underrated to me, he is one of the best passers of the basketball
Mm-hmm.
that the NBA has ever seen. His vision on a court is insane. The knock that I have on him is he's softer than puppy shit.
Oh yeah.
He always has been. Period.
Yeah,
And
I
I
agree.
get so sick and tired of it that I hear people talk about the Jordan LeBron comparison.
There's no comparison.
If you're going to compare LeBron to somebody, compare him to Magic Johnson. That's your fairest
It
comparison.
begins and ends with the mental acuity, and LeBron
Yeah.
doesn't have that
No,
gear.
he doesn't.
He wants to win, and he's done some good stuff. But I mean, if you play for 20 years, you're going to hit some great shots and win some great games.
You are.
But he doesn't do it the way Kobe and Jordan did because they've just got that killer instinct. They've just got a different gear than LeBron. 'Cause like he saw, and he's
LeBron to
soft
me
mental.
has always been the A-Rod of basketball. He's a regular.
don't know what that means.
He's a regular season statistic guy. When it really comes down to it, and all of it's
Right.
on you, he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
There's too many times that he's given up the ball late in the game, and I'm thinking, dude, Jordan and Kobe would have never given that ball up because they
Right.
want that moment because they're thick-skinned enough to take the criticism if they miss the shot.
Right.
He's not.
All right,
Period.
so my 2 was obviously between Kobe and Jordan. I took Kobe. To me, in my head, if I draw out of a hat and pick one of those 2, I'm winning either way. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're facsimiles of one another.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Kobe came second, so he's a facsimile of Jordan, but they're the same player to me. I mean, you can switch their uniforms and blur out their head. And their mechanics, everything's the same because
So
Kobe
much.
copied everything.
He did.
But he did great effect too. I mean, you don't score 81 points accidentally. I mean,
He was an
be-
assassin.
Yes, he was. And but to me, Kobe, because he had something to prove, because he had he had to be, at least in Jordan's league, his mental game
Yes.
was just to me, just a hair tick more focused and all that. And I think you pair him with the three I've already put him with, and he can lay back, but he can take over. He can do what he needs to do. I don't need a Jordan to score 35 points.
No.
And Kobe can
Not
do
with
that,
him.
but I think just the team that I put together, I didn't. I like Kobe more than Jordan.
Kobe had a
It doesn't make Jordan a less player. Jordan is a better player. Don't get me wrong. But to me, Kobe's better than LeBron. I would put him above
Yes,
LeBron.
absolutely.
And
But-
so I
because
chose
he
Kobe.
had
Kobe's
the
the second
mentality.
greatest of all time.
To me, he is.
Yeah.
But it's
The-
hard to argue like the Wilt and Shaq and some of those guys, Duncan even, like because you're talking positions. Like it almost needs to be who are the top 5 point guards, who are the top 5 center, because you can't compare what Wilt did to what Magic Johnson did.
Different game.
And it's well, not even a different game. It's a different position. So you know
Yeah.
your stats, your all around game. How do you compare somebody that posts up at 7'2" over somebody that's running a motion offense and throwing the ball halfway down the court on the fly to James Worthy? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, another thing you have to remember about Kobe is Kobe had to be that guy. He didn't have a choice because at 17
Especially
years,
some years.
Because at
He didn't have
17
nobody.
years old, he said that the Charlotte market was not big enough for him and demanded a trade.
Who they traded for?
Vlade Divac.
Vlade Divac.
You have to be that
From the
guy
Queens,
if you
as Shaq would
demand
say.
that
Yeah.
trade at 17 years old.
Yeah.
You have to be. Coming out of Philadelphia, you have to be that guy. You can't be just a regular player. You have to be top echelon guy.
All right.
And he was.
So Teeter, I'm going to go with Jordan on yours too. Anything new you want to say? All right. So, do we have any major disagreements with the foursome that we've got so far on any of these teams?
No.
Would you take any of these to the finals?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you'd win, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And my argument